Hi, you've reached the Signal Watch. Film, comics, television, sci-fi, superheroes, noir, history, and more. Join us as we examine cultural artifacts of the 20th century, boldly explore the 21st, and try to put it all in perspective. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Steens. Stay tuned. We're gonna try to make this work. All right, we are back. Today, I have with me
Simon Day. Hello, again.
And we are talking about
The Meg, which I guess the definitive article, because the book was called Meg, but the film's called The Meg, to differentiate it from, I don't know, Meg Ryan, Meg Tilly, Megadeth. Am I showing my age? So, and so Giant Shark versus the Jason Statham, I guess. And so I've seen this twice. So I went to see it. I think I got us tickets on opening night, and then you had a family thing come up. So I went anyway with an English mate, and then we went to see it a week afterwards, which was a couple of days ago now. So I've seen it twice. And when I went with my English mate, he's not kind of like a film connoisseur like us.
like us. We're fine gentlemen of film.
He has a life. But he basically just came out and said, that was cheesy fun. Whereas I was had my head in my hands, and I was like, I guess like Michael Shannon as Zod. I was like, the director, I will find him, because I was deeply kind of, I don't want to say upset. How can you be upset at a film of this quality? But it was the disappointment of the year for me, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
But just so you know, we didn't talk about the movie at all.
No,
coming in or going out.
Yeah, we purposely waited until today because I didn't want to bias anything, and I didn't want to kind of say anything. And then I saw it with you again a couple of days ago. Now this time, I think I did say this to you. I went in with lower expectations, and I watched the film for what it was instead of what I wanted it to be, and I probably enjoyed it 10-20% more.
That's not a huge crank up the dial,
which gets it up to 10-20% in maximum enjoyment overall.
Simon, you are allowed to say this movie was crap. I don't want to see it again just because we have tickets.
Well, no. I know how much large shark films like Sharknado mean to you, and
it's true.
And it was a boys' night out, and to be honest, I just want to kind of see your view, and I want to see if I was wrong as well after the first time. Because sometimes your perspective does change. But yeah, I kind of still stand by my original kind of like decision, I guess, which is I think it kind of failed, and I think it failed for two reasons. We can go more into this later.
Sure.
But I think firstly, the script was absolutely appalling. It's a very, very poor script.
It is. It is as by the yes.
It's in this weird middle ground where it's not spoofing itself like Sharknado or whatever, or Sharktopus or Shark Spider or whatever, which is a good thing because I'm not a fan of that. I'd much rather film attempts to be serious and failed, like The Swarm or The Island or Jaws 4 or anything else with Michael Caine in the 80s. But at least they tried to do something with those. The Swarm, which was like Irwin Allen trying to do for Killer Bees what he did with Fire, with Italian Inferno. At least, he thought that was going to be a good film. And it's only when you watch it that you realise the script totally killed that. Whereas in this case, the script just doesn't do anything. The funny lines aren't funny. Jason's got a couple of we got to find a fish and kill the fish. But there's nothing that stands out. I think the little girl has the best lines by far, and is probably the best actor in it by far.
I will not hear this of Jason Statham.
Well, I'm a huge. I mean, this is the first point I'm still trying to make. But I'm a huge, and we're kind of already digressing. But I'm a huge Jason fan, and not Friday the 13th Jason. Obviously, this Jason, this bald English Jason, and for a while, I probably funded his swimming pool about 10 years ago because I was going to see the Cranks, the Transporters, the kind of like. The bank job, anything he put out every 3 months, I was there on the front row going, I like it. Even stuff like Death Race. And, and he's fine in this. He doesn't do anything wrong. But like I say, the script's terrible. The second point, and we can, obviously we can expand on this, is I think the certification killed it dead. I think this was designed as an R-rated movie, and I think last minute they lost their nerve and basically kind of cut its balls off. And there's not even any blood in the film. It's about a giant killer shark eating people, and people keep falling in the water and then climbing back out again like every 10 minutes. And
it's true, the body count's exceedingly low in this movie.
You have a couple of severed arms. That's all I could spot. And I think when this is kind of spoilers, I think when it eats the doctor, there's a little bit of blood in the water as it kind of goes off.
Yes.
And that's it. And I'm like, what are you doing to me here? I was expecting the shark version of Piranha 3D. That's what I want.
Oh, okay, I see.
I want Jerry O'Connell saying, it ate my penis. That's what I want.
That needs to be in every seafaring film. Okay, so that's a lot to unpack.
I'm fencing.
It's interesting to hear. That is not at all what my expectation was.
Okay.
This movie was exactly what I thought it was going to be going in. Now, as you said, I watch a lot of shark-related media.
Yeah.
A lot of shark-related media. And Jaws, of course, is sort of the Citizen Kane of...
That's the daddy.
Yeah, of shark movies. And we're both big fans of the film. I think we've seen it together at least once, maybe 2 or 3 times. I have no idea anymore.
I always watch it once a year, normally summer, quite often 4th of July. It's actually my favourite film. And I'm not judging the Meg against Jaws because... I don't know. I can't even make a contrast, but they're so far apart.
I would be very curious to read the book now, and the reason I say that is the person who wrote the book,
Steve Alton.
Yes,
yeah,
is apparently the guy who did that documentary, self-funded documentary about Jaws.
The shark isn't working.
Yeah,
did he do that?
He apparently wrote Meg.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So the book may be much closer to the movie, or than the movie, to what you were thinking.
Well, so he's done 6 of these now.
Jesus Christ.
He's kind of like the poor man's Michael Crichton. Don't want to put the guy down because he obviously does his research.
Wait, maybe he was just in that documentary.
He might have just been in it, I think.
Okay, I'm betting that's what the case was.
Yeah, I have a feeling, because I think I was...
It takes a long time to write a shark book like that, so when would he have time to make a documentary?
Well, he's been doing these, I think, for the last 20 years, and I remember when I first came over to America about 10 years ago, I was reading these on a plane. So I read Meg, I read The Trench, which is the sequel.
Oh.
And then there's Meg... Offspring or Megageddon or Here Comes Meg Again. Meg rides again. Meg goes bananas.
Meg goes west.
Meg goes to Monte Carlo. Meg 2 Electric Boogaloo. So he's done 6 of these. I gave up after the first 3, but they're good summer reads. They're kind of trashy beach reads, but again, they're incredibly gory. You've got people getting swallowed and their perspective while they're being swallowed.
Yeah. To your point, it was a children's film.
Yeah.
There were children in the theater having no problem with this movie.
Yeah.
Lots of children.
Yeah, there was families, which annoyed me.
For
many reasons. Yeah, so the books were very R-rated. A lot of blood, a lot of gore. And actually, I remember, I think in the sequel, the start of the second book, it's actually almost like Jurassic World, where they've managed to capture one of these and it's in a big aquarium, and there's an annoying kid kind of messing around, almost like teasing it, and it smashes through the glass and kind of grabs him, and it's and that would have been spectacular. But in this, I mean, even in the film, it takes ages for it to turn up. I think we're 40 minutes into the film, maybe even 50 minutes into the film before we even see it.
Yeah, it's pretty far into the movie. There's a lot of maybe unnecessary setup.
Well, I think so. The start of the film, slight spoilers here, where there's a disaster, and Jason kind of saves the day, but then he also has to leave some people behind.
Let's spoil the hell out of this movie.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter.
I mean, nobody's going to watch it.
It was the number one movie last week. It may be again this week. You don't know.
Well, that's exactly like the book. Mm-hmm. So he is traumatized for the same reason.
Okay. So the movie begins with Statham is a rescue submarine guy with his crew.
With a growly voice.
Yeah, and they go to rescue a nuclear submarine's crew that for some reason the submarine's it's obviously underwater. It's a submarine. It's crashed underwater, and they're pulling. You open in media res. They're pulling people out, and his own crew somehow gets trapped in there, and they realize something is outside.
Something's kind of ramming it at the same time, but they don't seem to be able to see what that is.
Right, which also. Everything they do is the setup of what attracts the shark has nothing to do with how submarines work. Yeah. So I was very curious why the Meg was pissed off at the submarine. But anyway.
Except maybe it's just big. And it's
big and vibrating.
Yeah.
That may have been it.
Yeah.
So his crew gets killed on the nuclear sub, but he saves everybody who was on the Navy vessel. But he then is fired and humiliated because he keeps saying, no, there was something out there that was gigantic, and there's a doctor who's like, no, you had nitrogen psychosis.
You could have saved them.
Yeah.
Which actually he couldn't have done pretty obviously because it blows up straight after.
Yeah, there's no sign that anyone but him was right at all about anything. And frankly, I'm pretty sure people are pretty forgiving about what happens when a nuclear submarine has gone down. Yeah. And you have taken your own tiny sub to go save them. Like, you get anybody out of there, they're pinning a medal on your chest. That's some dangerous work. But anyway, that's the setup. So 5 years later...
He's been drunk for 5 years
He's been drunk.
Thailand.
Yeah.
Although he still looks amazing. I'm like, wouldn't he have a beer belly by now?
He's apparently doing nothing but working out, renting out his boat to a guy who's mad at him.
Drinking Heineken. I think product placement was in there or something. I don't know.
Yeah. But at the same time, you're like, man, I kind of want to go there when you saw that. Like, if you're going to crash in life, that's a good place to crash.
Yeah, he's happy. He's got his fishing boat and he rides about on his moped, waving at kids drunkenly.
It's kind of how I picture my retirement.
That's my weekends.
So Statham then so there's this now multi-billion-dollar installation with a goofy name,
which is very Deep Blue Sea-ish, I thought, as well.
It's a nice combination of The Abyss and Deep Blue Sea.
Yeah.
Tilting maybe you're right, a little more Deep Blue Sea-ish.
Yeah, because I feel like the first third is kind of like pretty much set in that environment, the underwater lab, and what are we doing? What is the point of this?
So this is where I agree with you that the script is dumb.
Yeah,
because the billionaire doesn't seem...
anything that anybody says.
The entire first third is like, we're all used to like exposition in our movies. This is very unclever.
He turns up and goes, "What are you doing?" Doesn't he? Yeah.
The guy who's been funding this entire thing, Rainn Wilson, has no idea why he's been funding this thing, apparently.
Yeah.
And apparently the entire thing was designed...
Which cost billions.
By a very young single person.
Yeah.
And you're just like, none of this makes any sense. Like, if this is how anyone over the age of 13 thinks how things work.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And it's kind of at this weird condescending, but I'm also very used to this from my shark-related media of nothing making sense. It's just, that's the setup.
Well, without offending you, do you feel like your previous shark films have given you a very low expectation of what to expect from a shark film?
Yes. What I went in expecting with this movie was a very expensive version of one of those movies. And it's what I got.
Yeah, see, I didn't. I expected... something classier.
Why?
Well, even this summer we've had another Jurassic World, and while that was very flawed, which is, for another podcast, it ticked the boxes. And it actually had some scary moments, and it had some gore. And I'm like, that's kind of kept the Jurassic franchise chugging along until the next one. Definitely had some problems. But then I was like, this hopefully will be the same or better. And it isn't. It's so much less, I thought, you know. I mean,
I think they knew exactly what they were making.
I mean, okay, so I'll give you an example. So a couple of days before I originally saw it, I was just looking at stuff online. Mm-hmm. And you had the director, who I think...
John Turteltaub.
Previously has made, I don't know, National Treasure and a couple of other things.
Yes. He's made all movies I've never seen before, including the National Treasure movies.
I haven't seen those either, but I do like a bit of Nick Cage. But he was actually interviewed by bloodydisgusting.com, and I think he was kind of saying, sadly, I wanted loads of gore in this. And we had some great stuff written down and great stuff pre-planned.
I think, yeah, sure.
And we actually had to take it out. And it's not even going to be on the Blu-ray, because obviously we didn't even, film it. Mm-hmm. So you had him kind of apologising before the film came out. And then you also had Jason, mm-hmm. you know, in an interview where he was actually being very diplomatic, but he was also kind of saying, you know, this wasn't the script. The film isn't the script I signed up for, you know.
Oh, that's not good.
And he was kind of saying, well, he was, you know, he actually worded this very well. So he wasn't ruffling feathers, but he was kind of saying, originally what I read was like, you know, a lot nastier, more of a horror film. Uh-huh. And, you know, and lots of kind of gory shots and lots of bodies being dismembered or whatever. And he said, you know, and like I say, he was being very subtle, but he was like saying, you know, but as you go along, movie making changes as you do it, mm-hmm. and, you know, and we wrote, you know, kind of rewrote some stuff. Yeah. All the stuff with the sub at the start wasn't in it originally, which is kind of crazy because that's the start of the book.
But it also makes sense for the way the movie flows.
Yeah. But he was like basically saying, you know, so what we ended up making wasn't really the film that I would make and that I kind of was hoping it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So both of them, without kind of like saying, you know, this is bad,
mm-hmm.
are saying, you know, really this kind of got filleted during production down to a PG-13.
So there is an issue.
Do you like how I said filleted, the fish reference?
Yes.
I just thought of that.
There is an issue going on, I think, in Hollywood right now of, you know, how movies are made to make money.
And this was 150 million, which again...
Whoa!
Where did that money go? Where did that money go? Because, I mean, like...
Bing Bing Lee's hair product.
I just imagine there's a couple of very happy producers with mansions somewhere who siphoned off a lot because...
Yeah, I think people are doing a lot of cocaine in Shanghai is what I think.
That shark wasn't that good. It was pretty good, but that's not 150 million's worth of shark.
If you had told me that movie was 75 million, I would have raised my eyebrows. But I am really... They're like on the back of my skull right now at 150 million.
Yeah. And again, I don't know how much Jurassic World was this summer. I'm guessing around that, maybe a little bit more. But the amount of dinosaurs and action they got in that...
Well, they also have big name actors. I mean, not to bag on Bing Bing Lee.
Don't put Jason down.
Yeah, worth every cent.
He's a diamond in the rough. He's a diamond in the rough.
I love Jason Statham, so
he's a top geezer.
I mean, which is why I wanted to go see the movie. But
and he's one of the best bits of it. You know?
Yeah, he carries absolutely. Well, I mean, everyone. It's fine. It's an ensemble movie. Everyone's playing their stereotype. But they're making PG-13 movies because they need to get kids in the door, and people don't go see rated R movies anymore.
Well, they've got to get that budget back. They've got to get that budget back.
Right, and $150 million, that's insane.
Yeah. I mean, and I think, you know, that probably hurt it. You know, I would have much preferred, like you say, a 50, 60 million version that was R-rated.
Have you seen Dead Alive, the Peter Jackson movie?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
In fact, I nearly brought that today for a Halloween movie for us to do, actually. Yeah.
Well, man. Okay, so maybe not after I tell the story I'm about to tell, but I remember the very unique experience of Dead Alive. I've never had it before or since. Of in the last scene where he comes through with the lawnmower.
Yeah.
Both laughing and almost throwing up.
Oh, yeah. It's incredibly gory, even now.
Yeah.
He's just shredding people.
Yeah, but it was just like, I was laughing so hard I was crying. And I kept also having to choke back puke.
Yeah.
Like,
That's-
don't throw up.
That's how I felt watching The Meg.
But there's definitely a place for that, and I have gone on before, not on the podcast, about how nothing makes me happier. It's part of why I like Godzilla movies. Nothing makes me happier than mayhem in a movie.
Yeah.
Like in I think the Benicio del Toro. Benicio del Toro Wolfman movie is not good.
No.
Except
they had a lot of
for-
problems, didn't they? Yeah.
The mayhem scene in the middle of London, where he's
where
just tearing
he
people.
changes when he's surrounded by the doctors.
Yeah.
That's
And then
good.
he goes
That's
on
good.
this rampage. Like,
Yeah.
I love that stuff. And I think that with the Meg, there was room for that. Before I saw the movie, I saw it was PG-13.
Yeah.
And I
mean,
recalibrated all of my expectations. I knew that was not going to happen. I knew we were going to scare some tourists at the beach from the previews.
Yeah.
And I knew that there was going to be some people getting eaten underwater.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. Like, maybe a few tourists got eaten, but it's not like the Meg was like swimming along at surface level, just like chop, 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 which would have been amazing.
No, I mean, you're right. And, you know, and as soon as I saw that, I mean, I'm the same as you. As soon as I saw that certificate, I thought, this isn't even going to be Anaconda. I mean, this isn't even going to have that kind of...
PG-13 is what PG was 15 years ago.
But, I mean, and PG has changed, because you forget that Jaws was PG. But that was a different time, you know?
Right. I mean, yeah, we didn't have PG-13 when Jaws came out. I don't know what certificate it would be now.
Probably PG-13, I guess.
I'm thinking.
Yeah. But that's a good filmmaker. And a good script.
It is Steven Spielberg, and it is one of, I consider it to be one of the most tight narratives.
Poltergeist was a PG.
Yeah,
I mean, I think this is like,
but R was reserved for profanity and nudity.
yeah,
Not necessarily even, well, definitely for gore, but not necessarily for violence.
not for scares, really.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was hoping for, I guess, like something like, not even R-rated. I can handle the certificate, but like use the certificate. You know, use it. Like I say, Jurassic World managed to kind of do it this summer. You know, that's scary. That's by a horror director.
I consider this movie to have been a satire or not a satire, but a comedy or a spoof. Like there was.
Do you think it was a spoof there? Because I don't think it went far enough to be a spoof. It was almost like he was trying to be serious, but but he kind of kept looking at the camera.
Really spoil the movie. At the very end, when the credits are rolling, then it comes up with Finn,
which is one of the best bits of the film,
right? Which totally lost, I think, on everyone in the theater but me and Simon. But that is where I thought we were operating. You know, and it is a movie where the person in the movie, kind of like Ant-Man and the Wasp, who's getting the best lines, is an 8-year-old girl, or however old she is. I think she's 7 or 8.
Yeah, she's very cute.
Yeah, and she's super precocious and, you know, full of wit and wisdom. And she gets the best lines, and every plot line is super hacky. Statham's entire arc is like out of 80s movie 101.
Oh yeah.
The divorcee mom who's, you know, falls for him, played by Bing Bing Lee.
I mean, all the other characters are very, very kind of vanilla or poor. I mean, I personally, you know, I don't want to lay into somebody, but I really don't see the attraction of, is it Ruby Rose? I mean, she looks like a kind of an Action Man or G.I. Joe with the swivel eyes and crazy hair. Who's the villain from The Simpsons, the circus guy?
Sideshow Bob.
So she's got Sideshow Bob's hair, and even in the film they say, I think somebody says, stop messing with your hair, and all she does is pout. And she's terrible. She's a terrible actress, you know, but she seems to be the it girl at the moment.
I'd never heard of her before a week ago, so...
Yeah, but I mean, I was just like, she's rubbish. You've got... one bit that made me laugh, unintentionally, I think, is you've got the guy from Heroes, which I never watched. But he's... so this made me laugh, because he's in the sub. And again, spoiler, but, you know, who cares with this film? And he's like... he does a seagull from Executive Decision. They're like, we're not going to make it. And he goes, you will. And, like, shuts himself in the submarine. And I was just like... He's done a seagull. That's great. Not a seagull, as in a... Steven Seagal did that in Executive Decision.
That plot point made no sense.
No,
because
not really.
and when they hear that scene was added on later, totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Because the other guy had clearly been hired for the rest of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was apparently available.
The big guy?
Yeah, I think he's actually Dutch. And that's the interesting thing about
this. It's
this.
called The Wall in the film, isn't it? Oh, no, what was it? The Wall?
Yeah, I think
The Mountain? Or The Wall?
Something like that,
yeah. I've been watching Game of Thrones, so I'm getting mixed up.
I think that actor is Dutch. Or Danish.
He is. Scandinavian or something, yeah. So.
And so he just barely has this accent that just always makes him sound like he's about 2 drinks in. But he...
and then, we're worrying about being racist, but there's the funny black guy.
Oh, I'm not worried about talking about that at all, because it's absolutely this weird throwback stereotype that, like, LL Cool J played in Deep Blue Sea, and it pops up in lots of horror movies.
And I never thought I'd say this, but I missed LL Cool J watching The Meg. I'm like, him and his bloody parrot would have vastly
had a lot more
improved
charisma and time. It was they make the
he hasn't got any funny
panicky
lines.
black guy on the water who can't swim.
They try to fix it by saying, "Are you being racist?"
Yeah,
but it's like, no, the filmmakers are, mate.
Yeah,
that's it.
But it is this interesting. I'm wondering if some of that 150 million came from China.
I'm sure a lot of it did. Actually.
Because, I mean, Bing Bing Lee's a big actor.
Well, it's a joint production, isn't it? I think.
Was it?
Yeah.
I wasn't paying any attention.
Yeah. Which is
eating my hamburger.
Why I felt that was crowbarred in a bit, with locations and, of course, cast members.
Yeah.
It seemed... Well, once you know that, you're like, okay, and they're trying to obviously push it. I think it's actually doing well in China because of that, so...
Well, it's like having... I'm trying to think of who the Scarlett Johansson or somebody over here, crammed into your shark movie.
Yeah.
With Statham, who I believe is a draw, not just here in the States and in England. I think he's a global phenomenon as well. He should be.
Yeah. Omnipresent.
But
he's pushing the caricature of angry bald Englishmen around the world who drink too much. Not that I would know.
You're doing your part. But yeah, it's a interesting. I think that's part of what I enjoyed about watching it, was seeing all of these pieces of all the mechanics of the movie going together, as much or more than, because what's happening on the screen doesn't honestly matter.
Well, you are waiting for the shark.
You are waiting for the shark, but you can just see all the gears of like, this is pulled from this, and this is taking place in Shanghai because they must have had Chinese money. And there's this big Chinese star who's in it. And then here's Statham, who's not necessarily tied to the U.S., but is popular in the U.S.
Yeah.
And so we can sell this,
it just seems
barely trying movie all around the planet.
Yeah.
And it'll get past all the censors everywhere. That's part of why everything's PG-13 now, is China doesn't show rated R movies. I
mean, I suppose it just felt far too clinical and mechanical for me. And I remember like 20 years ago when Deep Blue Sea came out, this guy I was sharing a house at the time. I was a student, and this guy who's younger than me was like, we were talking about films. He was like, "You should watch Deep Blue Sea," and I'm like, "That's a load of rubbish." And then I actually didn't go to see it, and I didn't see it until a couple of years later on DVD. And then when I did see it, I enjoyed it. But I was like, at the time I was very snooty to him, and I was like, that's a Jaws ripoff. That's no Jaws, Now, Deep Blue Sea compared to this, I'm like, that's the bloody height of sophistication, because like you say, you've got Samuel Jackson playing a millionaire with a brain. You've got, like, was it Thomas Jane is the Jason of the piece?
Yes.
You've got LL Cool J, who kind of is the comic relief, but not as in your face and badly written as this one. And I'm like, are we de-evolving rapidly? What are we going to have in 10 years? What are we going to be watching?
It's going to be people on a raft going, "Shark! Yeah. There's a shark!"
Which costs $400 million.
This is going to be called Shark! !
Shit, shark. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, fuck, a shark.
I mean, though, I enjoyed, like I say, I enjoyed it more the second time. I think because I'd lowered my expectations. And I knew what I was getting. And, you know, I'd given up all hope. And some bits of it I liked. I really liked when he's skiing behind the boat and is chasing him.
Yeah.
I really liked the end where he kills it, which was absolutely ridiculous. There was some good stuff in there, but I mean, it could have been so much more, in my opinion.
I see what you wanted it to be, and that would have been a fun movie.
Yeah.
I
mean, you and I went to see Piranha 3D, didn't we? 10 years ago.
Oh my god, yeah, we did.
Which is scary, it was 10 years. And that, for me, was kind of perfection, because it was a remake of something I enjoyed already, Joe Dante's Piranha, but they'd kind of ramped it up to 11. You know,
in talking about movies, I cackled my whole way through trying to choke back the puke. Yeah.
Yeah. It just was extreme. Everything was intense and extreme in that.
Yeah.
To the point of overkill.
Yeah. And it's a shame if you watch it on Blu-ray that you won't be able to see it in 3D unless you have a 3D TV. It embraced the 3D in the dumbest ways possible.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you had some ridiculous things in there. I hold up my hands. I probably approached this the wrong way.
I'll tell you this. So, like, 15 years ago, back in the olden days, before my brother had a girlfriend, then wife, this is the trailer we would have watched, looked at each other and been like, hell yeah!
Oh, yeah.
And we would have, and Jamie would have said, no. And we're like, yeah, no, we're totally going to go see it. And then sometimes she'd come and sometimes she wouldn't. And we knew what we were getting into. It's how we saw, like, you know, Dracula 2000 in the theater and whatnot. You know, it was just, it was how you killed summer afternoons and evenings when we were, you know, kind of just out of school and, you know, didn't have much, not that I have anything going on now, but that's the kind of movie
dumb fun.
Dumb fun. And, you know, sci-fi definitely found its niche of how to do that, you know, with their shark movies and whatnot. This week I enjoyed Santa Jaws and I already have the DVR set for the final Sharknado movie for Sunday night.
See, maybe you and I are slightly different, though, because I feel like I saw the first Sharknado, and I think I saw Sharktopus. I think actually I saw that in a theatre, limited.
Oh my god!
I think it might have been
Sharktopus is not a great movie.
It's a terrible film. Yeah, I think it's got, like, is it Eric Roberts is in it, and as you can tell, he's like, I'll do anything for money. At that point, but those films for me, like I say, I tire very quickly because it's almost like they're saying, we can be as crap as we want because we're not taking it seriously.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't take it seriously, so we can be as crap as we want.
Yeah.
I'd much rather something like I say, The Swarm or Soldier with Kurt Russell that thinks it's doing something important and doesn't realise how badly it's failing until it's too late. That's just me, I don't know.
I know what you mean, and you know, I go back and forth with some people about things like Mystery Science Theater 3000 and Riff Tracks that kind of spoof movies. And you go to Master Pancake all the time here in Austin.
And actually, that's a good point you made, because even with those, though, I think
that's the sincerely made movies that don't hit the mark.
Yeah. And Master Pancake, you know, I think is doing Titanic this weekend.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is funny or doesn't work about Titanic? But then, of course, Titanic also does work in a lot of ways. So
Sure. I find the Asylum movies can get boring. And it was, you know, and so that's one level of crap, like the Asylum movies where they know it's junk and they're intentionally making junk and it's all for a laugh. And then there's the sincerely made movies. This falls somewhere kind of in between those two things, where I think there's some people who are going to be under a certain age who are going to go see it and be like, yeah, Statham kicked butt and saved the pretty girl and exciting things happened. And then you get older and go, oh, they were kidding.
Yeah.
Like, this whole thing, the director, if you go through John Turteltaub's filmography...
It's not the best.
It's kind of fascinating. He has just made whatever schlock is kind of the schlock of the moment.
Yeah.
Be it National Treasure. He made and not just like kind of funny action movies or lighthearted action movies. And I actually, in the middle of this movie, was thinking, this isn't a horror movie, it's an action movie. When Statham was getting dragged behind the boat, which is honestly probably the best scene in the movie.
I'm also unsure whether Meg would be interested in one person, because it seems to have a thing about Jason Statham and really want to eat him. And I'm like, would it be that bothered? Wouldn't it be like us chasing a pea around a table or something. I can understand it attacking whales and eating whales, but I mean, you know, and I can understand when it's close to the beach and there's lots of people, you're going a bit crazy.
Yeah.
But would it really chase down one person floating around? Would it be that bothered? I don't know.
He's a moody shark. How dare you try and run away from me?
Did you say a movie shark or moody shark?
Yes, moody. Bit of both. I mean, the Jaws sequels did spin out enough to where the shark wanted revenge.
Even in Jaws, it's a bit too. It takes it a bit too personally. I think the shark, doesn't it? So, yeah.
But I mean, it's in a long line of not being Moby Dick. Yeah.
More dick, really.
But yeah, I mean, as you said, the cast is not. They're all kind of trying, sort of. I mean, in the way of like they all showed up.
Yeah,
they put on their costumes.
They don't really have much to work with, so I'm not going to be too hard on them. Apart from Ruby Rose, who I really don't like. Probably because everybody else seems to like her. You know, I was talking to a girlfriend the other day, and she was like, "Oh, she's so sexy. She's great. She appeals to men and women." And I'm like, "Does she?"
She was very much doing this is what I think a hard ass acts like, sort of thing. Not like I'm a hard like.
This is what a 22-year-old thinks a hard ass acts like.
And if you compare it to
they like Jason, that's what they act like.
That's right. But I mean. So what's a good underwater movie is I'm going to go ahead and just say we can all agree on The Abyss.
Yeah.
And that was a very different cast of people who I bought. I mean, even though they were kind of doing the James Cameron cowboy thing,
good actors, good
actors. But you also buy all of how they're tough.
Yeah.
Like
I really liked
Mary. Wait, who is the woman?
Oh, from Robin Hood.
Yeah. I want to say Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio.
Yeah.
Is it?
No, yeah. And it was Ed...
rubbing some brain cells together and getting sparks.
Who was the guy, though? It was
Ed Harris.
Ed Harris, yeah.
I mean, you always believe Ed Harris. Ed Harris, anything he shows up in, right?
Well, I loved their relationship in that, because they were obviously estranged.
Well, they did that in this movie.
Well...
Except they'd already cast, apparently $100 million worth of Bing Bing Lee, and
so his wife wasn't Thingy from the original X-Men films. Who's the blue one?
No,
because she looked like her.
Well, it's funny you should say that. It is not Rebecca Romaine Stamos.
Yeah, there you go.
I had heard somebody in a review I was reading compare her. They said she's a Sharon Stone lookalike, and I was like, I don't see that at all. It's so weird when people say who they think. You're right.
That's about it.
Yeah, she's blonde with blue eyes, and there's a lot of people in Hollywood, and she's actually Australian. There were no less than 2 Australians, including Ruby Rose, in this movie doing American accents.
Yeah.
So American actors, get your crap together, because the Australians are eating your lunch right now. Yeah, the English are playing Superman. Like, was
there any Americans in the film? I guess there was the comic relief guy was American.
And that's
and Ryan Wilson.
So the 2 comic relief guys were
American. Yeah.
And Ryan Wilson
was really annoying.
And that's kind of his.
Do you think his death was pathetic? Because I'm like, even I saw that coming a year away, where they were like, "We're not going to go near it until you've killed it," and the helicopters bombed down. I'm like, "It's a bloody whale. You got the wrong thing." And then once you go over there, it's going to come up underneath you. And that would have been very predictable.
Thought it was yet another Megalodon.
Okay, but then they made it
same difference.
Then they made it worse, because he twigged and was like, "Get us out of here!"
Yeah.
And he falls off the back of the boat, and I'm like, and they wouldn't have noticed that his men suddenly disappear. Oh, come on, So
yeah, it was dumb.
Yeah,
there were. But that's the thing is, that's why I thought it was almost like more of an action comedy than a horror movie.
I think you're right. Yeah, I mean, maybe the original synopsis, like months ago, was a horror, but I think they changed it.
Well, I mean, if you read the books, you know much more about the source material than I do.
Yeah, I mean, the books were very like the Jurassic Park books, where there's a lot of talk, a lot of scientific talk, and then a big action horror scene where people kind of have. I mean, even the bloody dog in the film popped up at the end. I'm like, it didn't even need the dog. I mean, actually, I shouldn't be surprised by that, because
Talking about chasing a pea around
Hollywood's, I mean, Hollywood's happy. Well, yeah, totally. I mean, would the shark even... I mean, I guess the shark wouldn't care.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is coming right through it. And it's like, basically, like a couple of meters away. And then this poodle pops up at the end. And it's like, he made it! And Jason Statham goes, he made it. And we were like supposed to cheer or something. And I'm like, I guess Hollywood never kills the dog, so I shouldn't be surprised. But that's the final twist of my wound.
But I also knew that from the trailer. That dog in the trailer was how I knew what this movie was.
Yeah. It
was like, they're not going to kill the dog. They might kill the bride and groom and the entire bridal party, and we'll all go, ha 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 ha, that's hilarious. But if they killed the dog, we'd be like, whoa.
Yeah.
No, sir, that's not what we do here in a movie.
Steven Spielberg killed Pippin.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. His stick floating at the end.
Yeah. That is true. That's Jurassic World?
No, Jaws.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was remembering, I was actually always surprised in Jurassic Park 2.
And he killed a kid in Jaws.
Yeah, but it was a true horror movie. It was a true horror movie.
It's before he got married as well. He's not allowed to do that anymore.
Right. Can't cap shop rounds and all that nonsense.
Yeah.
But yeah, he because in Jurassic World, he killed the dog. The T-Rex is in someone's backyard.
Oh yeah, End of Lost World. Yeah, and it's just the leash hanging out.
Which you're just like, oh, they actually killed the dog.
Yeah,
you're not getting the cute shot of the dog running away that some second unit went and shot for safety. I thought it was good, dumb summer fun, as your friend thought. And I will be curious to watch Ruby Rose because I'm aware of how popular she is apparently.
Well, like I say, this girlfriend of mine, who's older than me, but she was like, oh, she's great, she's fantastic, and I think she's in Orange Is the New Black, or whatever it's called, and she's had a shower scene, so she's taken her top off, and and now she's very attractive to, I guess, like general audiences. But
she took her top off.
Partly. And she's a young woman. But I mean, they've just stuck her in there because she's popular at the moment. She's not good. It'd be interesting, like you say, if she hangs around or whether she just fades away and the next person comes.
So this week she got cast as Batwoman on a CW show. Now it's a CW show. She will be better than everybody in all the other CW shows. Because I know you don't watch those.
Because I thought that was going to be a film, and I was already dreading that.
No, it's going to be like a 7 or 8 p.m. CW television.
That makes a bit more sense.
I don't think you even have an antenna or a cable.
Nah, I don't.
You're all movies all the time.
I live in a vault of dusty DVD.
22 hours a year I lose to watching like The Flash and Supergirl, and none of it's good.
No.
Anyway, I think it's probably as complete a conversation on the Meg as anyone's going to want to listen to.
Yeah, I don't really have anything left, which is how I felt after I saw it. Both times.
Yeah.
In fact, actually, it's kind of funny because I don't think I would have gone to see it again at all if I didn't know I was going with you. But like I say, I'm glad I did see it again because I think it's slightly raised it up from thoroughly offensive to annoying, in my view. I don't think I'll ever be driven to watch it again.
I will probably watch it again because I think next summer, like, Jamie might enjoy watching it at some point, but she may also be very bored of it. It's hard to know.
I think that's the most unforgiving thing about it. I found it dull. I found it, apart from the couple of scenes we mentioned.
Oh, I know what I wanted to talk about. And,
sure.
And the one of the things I actually did like about the movie that I thought actually was pointing towards something the movie really wasn't was this kind of futurist technology they were using in the design of the subs.
A little bit Star Trek-ish, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like he gets in the the sub you never see again, the Happy Captain or whatever it was called.
Or Captain Bubbles.
Captain Bubbles, yeah. And
hey, crazy.
Yeah. But he gets in, and they, instead of having, the window, they put cameras all outside the sub, and his it's all screens, and you're like, oh, now he's basically like, and that totally makes sense in a submarine that's going to be going down. And they put some thought into things like that. Was the weird thing. The designs of the subs, like there were these glider sort of subs that the people were in these gyroscopic balls in the middle, and I know that's totally currently a thing of the movies, but it also totally makes sense when you look at it.
That was also kind of unintentionally funny scene as well, where he's going as fast as possible to get to that, and he goes, I don't need air. And it's like he's turning off all the systems so he can have more speed. And he's like, I don't need lights. And it's going even faster. And it's like, yeah, he's bleeding from every orifice, but it's Jason. He'll be alright. He just
clenches and holds it all in.
Yeah. I'm British. I look like this normally. So yeah, don't mug me off, you big fish.
But yeah, and I like the design. I like the design of their kind of undersea base that may or may not pop up again, and if they make because apparently there's 6 books.
Didn't you think with I think they were called gliders in the film. Mm-hmm. Those 2 little yellow ones they kind of were using towards the end.
Yeah, they're kind of the starship ones that they...
Didn't you feel, though, because a couple of times the Meg actually bit those, and I'm like, that wouldn't have held up. I mean, if it's been biting a submarine at the start of the film, wouldn't it have just crushed those straight away?
I'm trying to remember how it bit it, because I remember thinking about that in the movie and forgiving it.
Because I actually...
because they talked about the shark cage...
Yeah, so I thought that was a lot more... Oh, yeah. That's a good point. Because the shark cage I actually didn't have a problem with. Because I thought... And I liked the fact that it started swallowing it because it couldn't crush it. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's actually a good idea, quite threatening. Mm-hmm. But no, you're right. They probably made it out of the same material, and that's why... Yeah.
But it just, if nothing else, like, you're kind of like, oh yeah, if you're like gonna do this deep sea exploration, none of it makes any sense in that you would send down people before you'd send down a bunch of rovers.
Drone.
Like, that's kind of the way it works. Like, they didn't go down to the Titanic with people first.
Well, they kind of, at the start of the film, it's kind of so silly because like you say, they're, guy from Heroes, mm-hmm. and Nordic Man and Sharon Stone basically just go, let's hope it's a cloud. Let's
hope it's not a bunch of jagged spikes coming out of the seafloor.
And I think even their boss kind of like, who actually, so that's interesting, the kind of the guy who I think is Maori, who played, is it Mick? Who's kind of like I guess the chief of the base.
The guy who had no character description.
He must love these films though, because he's in Deep Rising.
Oh my God.
As well. And he's in something else. Oh man, I can't remember it now. But he's done another one of these that's very similar. So I feel like they always have to kind of stick him in these, like, we're making Leviathan, or we're making this. Come on, he'd be in there somewhere. And I think he's done Star Wars stuff as well, actually. Actually, he's going to be in Avatar as well. So there's a Jim Cameron link.
You know a lot more about... I'd never seen that guy before. And maybe I've seen him in 20 things and just forgot about him. And I'd forgotten about him in this movie until you just said it.
What's funny...
Because they gave him nothing to do.
No. He just stands around looking concerned. Yeah. But I think for 10 years now, 15 years, they've been using him as, he's from a different nationality, stick him in there, so we're covering the demographics.
Yeah, he's ethnically ambiguous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got my bit in about the technology, so I'm satisfied.
Yeah.
We can wrap it up. I'm sure we're at like 50 minutes
It looked pretty. I mean...
If you want to know what a pretty beach looks like near Shanghai...
Oh yeah, lovely. Yeah. Except, I don't know, it seemed very crowded.
Very crowded.
Plus that kid was annoying. Do you see? So, okay, what about all the Jaws, if I'm being kind, homages? Yeah. Or just plain lifts, if I'm not being kind? But there's a fat Chinese... kid, can I go in the water for another 10 minutes? Mm-hmm. Except, of course, it's rubbish in this version. He doesn't get eaten. But yeah, there's him. There's a couple of other Jaws things I noticed where...
Yeah, that was the most overt one to me, was like, oh, they're doing this. And I was wondering if someone was going to get slapped.
You said the beaches were safe.
Oh, that actually reminds me. Yeah,
I like
there's this
though.
whole weird thing of everybody, blaming Jason Statham for killing his own team, which we already talked about. And then there's the thing of when he gets out of the sub and the guy from Heroes has died, and Bing Bing Lee's going crazy on him, and then immediately just comes back and apologizes, and you're like, you cut that whole scene. None of that went anywhere.
None of it mattered.
And none of it, no one would have had that reaction in that moment. It wasn't a human well, I don't know, people go crazy.
Well, I guess she worked with that guy for a long time, maybe.
Yeah, but he clearly tried. It was not Jason Statham's fault.
Well, actually, no, he did it. The other guy did it. That was his choice. Yeah. And nobody else stands up for Jason Statham. They're just going to don't say anything.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, so something I forgot to mention is I watch a lot of kind of movie blogs, online, of various quality, different people. And normally, these guys, whoever are doing them, these kind of like men or women, whoever they are, normally have access to grind about certain things. Maybe they don't like the DC movies, or they're trying to get Catherine Kennedy kicked out of Star Wars or whatever. They all gave this a pass, which amazed me, because all of them kind of said, oh, it's just a bit of fun.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so you guys, go around occasionally trying to wreck careers or with your own little agendas, but something comes out that to me is noticeably bad, and you just let it through.
Well, but there's nothing
offensive.
No, I think this is actually, we're going to end up talking for another 20 minutes, but...
We can cut it down.
Sure. But, no, that's a fantastic point. There's no...
I mean, they've been raving about The Last Jedi for, 8 months, but then the Meg comes out and they're like, it's just a bit of fun. Go and see it.
Yeah, but they're not tied into their whole childhoods with the Meg.
That's true.
And to some extent, I will argue your beef with this movie is that it's not Jaws. It's not what you were expecting.
Yeah.
And that's usually the beef of the people, they didn't get the Luke Skywalker movie they were expecting in Last Jedi.
That's a good point.
And so they have a particular axe to grind. It's more of this conflicts with my preconceived notions of, now they're deeply invested, like you're going to go home and never think about the Meg again.
Yeah.
They have decided to set up a YouTube channel where they're going to specifically complain about The Last Jedi, which is,
get a petition going. So, yeah.
I don't like the DC movies particularly, and I'm a huge DC Comics reader.
Yeah.
But that has not been my life's quest. I don't think anyone... I would be happy to see people replaced, but that's not my... Anyway. Basically, the big difference is no one walked into this movie, and that's why it's a perfect August summer movie for the States.
Yeah.
It got dumped at the end of August because they kind of knew nothing else was in the way. Kids are going back to school.
Although interestingly,
and it's not tied to Jaws. It's not tied to anything else. If it spins out a franchise, I won't be surprised. But then you'll have to worry in 15 years about the people who are now 30 who grew up on the Meg series.
Be looking back fondly at the first Meg.
This isn't the Jason Statham. What was the character's name? Well, it doesn't matter. This isn't the Jason Statham that I knew and loved. He wouldn't have been broken by this, despite the fact that the first 5 years of this movie he spent broken drinking beer. He would have fought on against the...
Tara Reid is Jason's granddaughter in Meg 6. It's like, I can see it happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't hate it.
You did. It's fine.
Well, I mean, I did a bit. There was you can cherry pick bits out of this, but I just felt like if you're going to spend 150 million, which
offensive part, yeah,
which you shouldn't anyway on something like this, don't do that. Spend 70 million and make a good R-rated film that might not make its money in the theatre, but I'm sure it would on rentals and kind of like buying Blu-rays down the line.
Yeah. I won't be shocked if no one remembers this movie come next August.
No, I think it's just going to fade away.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those ones that people are going to look at, the box office mojo or whatever from this week and be like,
Yeah.
How the hell did that movie make $450 million?
Yeah. I mean, the only good thing about it, I think, is at least, you know, it's probably helped Jason's career a little bit, which I think, you know...
Always a good thing.
Years ago, you know, I'm sure we were both watching the Transporters and stuff, and he was starting to get into a bit of a law of diminishing returns with his action movies. They all started looking the same. So lately, he's taken a bit of a left turn and started doing more comedy with Spy and stuff, and he managed to get into the Fast and Furiouses, and he's great in that. So this is good for him, which makes me happy.
Yeah. Well, we should someday talk about the Crank movies.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well,
that's was it like on the nipples? To start.
Those movies are so disturbing. They're their own version of I think I'm gonna puke laugh. All right, that's it. We almost talked for an hour, so I'm gonna go ahead and knock this off.
I'm off to have a tuna melt.
Adios.
Bye.
That about wraps it up for this edition of The Signal Watch, a production of the League of Melbotus. I've been your host, Ryan Steens. Thanks for sticking with us. We'll be back soon with more exceedingly high-quality content. So until next time, God damn it, babies. You've got to be kind.